Now to our top story, late-breaking developments in the WikiLeaks saga. Word tonight, the website's founder, Julian Assange, may be arranging for a meeting with British police. Joining me now by phone, Mark Stevens, Julian Assange's lawyer. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Judge. Nice to be with you.
Tell us, please, what the latest is. The word here in the States is that you and your client have been negotiating to actually speak with the British police.
Well, we've been negotiating to try and speak with the Swedish prosecutor since August, so it's been all a rather tawdry, slow process. But finally, the Swedish prosecutor has decided to send a warrant over to London that appears to have some validity to it. Certainly the police think so. And so we're engaged in discussions about how and when to meet with the police so that the relevant discussions about the prosecution or threatened prosecution in Sweden can take place. Will
the British government extradite your client for something that's not to Sweden or to any other country, for something that's not a crime, not prosecutable, or generally not prosecuted in Britain?
Well, they may do. We have a very odd European arrest warrant, and I haven't yet seen this one. The media over here particularly seems to be getting ahead of itself. I haven't yet seen this arrest warrant. I haven't had a chance to examine its validity. So it becomes a difficult process to look at that. But in theory, that is possible in Europe, although one may well consider it to be an abusive process. It certainly would seem to be a breach of natural justice.
Will you argue to the British courts that all of this is a political stunt fomented by government officials in the United States who were embarrassed about the truths that your client revealed?
It does seem to be that there are governments afoot, not just the Americans, but a number of them that have been embarrassed by the truth that's come out. And that is the most important thing, is that this is true journalism. This is journalism where the truth, the unvarnished truth, is being revealed. And we see that news organizations are revealing that governments are saying one thing in private and a completely different thing to their electorates. And, of course, the place they pay for that is at the ballot box.
Your client seems defiant. I mean, we received word this weekend that he has some kind of insurance document or poison pill that he'll release if his site is totally disabled or if he's arrested. Supposedly this information has some secrets about Guantanamo Bay or BP or Bank of America or other targets. I want you to hear what the Attorney General of the United States said about this, and then I want to get your response. Take a listen, Mark.
Sure.
We have a very serious criminal investigation that's underway, and we're looking at all of the things that we can do to try to stem the flow of this information.
Sounds to me like they don't know what to charge your client with.
Well, I think that I'm as stumped as they are. But the reality here is that I think that the journalists, the many thousands of journalists across the world that work at WikiLeaks, understand that this information is of enormous not only political moment now, but also social historical relevance, and they want to be sure that that information comes out. I mean, as of yesterday, only 261 of the 250,000 cables had been released. And there's obviously much information that ought to be gleaned from them. I suspect that once we've exhausted the sort of news stories, if you like, there will be a lot of theses and doctorates by academics as they pour through this raw material, which is a sort of unique learning space.
Right. Mark, will Julian voluntarily surrender to British authorities and ultimately to Swedish authorities if the courts so order, or will he stay in hiding or go on the run or seek to escape them?
Well, I mean, his plan is to meet them as consensual as he can. He's tried to meet this prosecutor since August. She's evaded him, and now we hope that there will be an opportunity for him to learn what the allegations are. But you know, as I sit talking to you now, Judge, we're in this bizarre situation, totally bonkers, where he still doesn't know these allegations. He's still never been invited to meet her, and you know, it sort of becomes something of a mantra to repeat. But it doesn't lose any force with that, because they are so contemptuous of fundamental rights and freedoms in Sweden. It is just very worrying.
Before I let you go, when the government spies on us, here in the U.S., they frequently say, what are you worried about? If you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to hide. How is it that the government is so terribly worried when we find out what they're up to?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, we live in a liberal democracy, and we should be able to go about our business without let or hindrance from the state. In fact, I hope that that's one of the protections of your Constitution and Bill of Rights. I mean, I think the other thing that's troubling me at the moment particularly is that we've seen economic attacks now on Julian in the last 24 hours. We've seen PayPal stop paying, and his specific defense fund, which was in Switzerland, they have frozen it and have announced it publicly. Now, we all know that Swiss have strong banking secrecy laws, but they haven't ever before announced that they've frozen an account. Now they have. I think that's also a worrying development. They're clearly submitting to international pressure. Question is, who from?
Before I let you go, can you tell me what's in the insurance dump, the poison pill, the cash that he's saving to release on the event of the destruction of WikiLeaks or his own being taken into custody?
Well, it's nothing to do with his being taken into custody. If the editor-in-chief of a news organization goes, there's a new editor-in-chief that comes into post, and the organization carries on. But unfortunately, I can't exclusively reveal here what's in it. I just don't know. I'm the lawyer advising on the news gathering and the news presentation issues, nothing more.
Mark Stevens, we know you're having a hectic day. We appreciate you bringing us this latest news up to the date. Come back and join us as these developments take on a life of their own. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
My next guest was on this program defending WikiLeaks' right to disperse information it obtains, and he's taken a good bit of heat for it. Joining me now, Florida Congressman Connie Mack. Congressman Mack, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be with you, Judge.
Why are Republicans, you're the exception, generally calling for this guy's head rather than saying, well, let's see. He's revealing what the government is doing. There is a First Amendment. The Supreme Court has interpreted the First Amendment to say he has a right to reveal it. So just because you don't like what he says doesn't mean you can put him out of commission.
You know, I don't know the answer to that. You'd have to talk to them. But I can tell you that what we see a lot of times is members will get out on an issue very quickly before all the information is developed.
Right.
And for me, you know, this is pretty simple, that the idea that we're focusing on WikiLeaks and not focusing on what the federal government is trying to do it's a head fake, like I think I said last time we were here.
Right, and here's the head fake. I think you probably agree with me, but maybe you can elaborate on this. There's over 1 million documents in the hands of WikiLeaks. The government wants us to believe that one buck private who's been in jail for the past 6 months is solely responsible for all of this. Does anybody take that seriously?
I don't know if they do, but they should. And I think what they should do is also see if there's more people involved. Obviously there is. Look, if the government wants to keep a secret, then it's up to the government to keep the secret. But to go after WikiLeaks when it's the government's own lack of security, if you will, and then turn around and say to the American people, basically, that if you do something we don't like, we're going to intimidate you and harass you. And I think this goes back to the Patriot Act, some of the wiretapping discussions we had. The federal government is too big, too broad, and it tries to impose its will on our freedoms.
And it doesn't respect our freedoms in the Constitution. It doesn't respect the guarantees that are imposed upon it, like the right to privacy. The Patriot Act, as you know, letting federal agents write their own search warrants. What about this? The federal government intimidated PayPal, Amazon, and other vendors out of doing business with WikiLeaks because it didn't like what WikiLeaks was published. And some people are applauding that. Well, could the same federal government intimidate the people who sell ink to the New York Times or to the Wall Street Journal and say, we don't like their editorials, so don't sell them ink so they can't print? I mean, how far will the government go? How many people would stand up and applaud that?
You know, this is exactly the point. This is why I think the people are not really understanding what's happening here. The fear should be, what will our federal government do to try to punish American citizens and corporations if those citizens or corporations do something that the government doesn't like? It doesn't make sense.
Even if what they do is not only not criminal, but according to the Supreme Court is absolutely protected free speech.
That's right.
All right, switching gears before I let you go. Organizations like Freedom Works and the American Conservative Union have finally said, you know what? the spending is so out of control that there are no sacred cows, even the Defense Department. Congressman Mack, is it time for a serious debate amongst Republicans as to how to cut defense spending?
It's time for a serious debate how to cut spending all across the board.
Including the Defense
Department. Nothing should be left off the table. Everything should be taken into account. And I think the American people deserve the Congress to make sure that we're spending the money properly.
Now, when you say that, and Congressman Ron Paul agrees with you, and soon-to-be Senator Rand Paul agrees with you, what does the leadership of the Republican Party say? Do they put their hands on their ears, or are they willing to have that conversation?
No, I think they're listening. I think the leadership in the Congress is saying, look, we've got to turn everything upside down, and we've got to take spending seriously. You know, right now we're in a debate about taxes,
right,
and whether or not we're going to raise taxes on people that make $250 or more. The real issue here is spending. The federal government, frankly, doesn't deserve any more of our money. And certainly the federal government owes it to the people of this country to cut spending.
Boy, is that nice to hear. Congressman Connie Mack from Florida, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Judge.